we got Big Bang. You said there were who? You said they're the original.
They're like the OGs.
Yeah? Stop playing. Stop playing.
Still life.
I like how they started off with a proverb, right? The psalm.
You want to read it?
Thou hast turned for me my mourning into dancing. Thou hast put off my sackcloth and girded me with gladness. Psalm 30:11. See what they got.
이듬해질녘 꽃 피는 봄 한여름밤의 꿈 가을 타 겨울 내리는 1년 4번 또다시 봄 정들었던 내 젊은 날 이제는 안녕 아름답던 우리의 봄 여름 가을 겨울 비간디야 비야 대신해야 비엔 비스듬씩 비웃던 질색무늬의 무지개 철없이 철지나 철들지 못해 철부지야 철그러지 오래 멋지 비발디 차이콥스키 오늘의 세계로 맞이해 마침내 시몬네
저 하늘만 바라보고서 사기절 잘 지내고 있어 Goodbye 떠난 사람 또 나타난 사람 머리 위저 세상 나도 내 영감의 아마존 지난 밤에 철만 담고 목숨 바쳐 달려오 새 출발하는 원목선 변할래 전보다는 더욱더 좋은 사람 더욱더 더 나은 사람 더욱더 아침을 스킬 맞고 내 안에 불 과거에 묻고 For life Do it away, do it away
울었던 웃었던 소녀와 소녀가 그리워 너 찬란했던 사랑했던 시절만 자꾸 기억나 계절은 날이 갈수록 속절없이 흘러
Oh my god, he grew out his hair.
Who is that?
That's Taeyang. Oh my god, I love the emotions that I'm getting from this song because I want to say they're the same age as us. And one line that really stood out was like goodbye beautiful young years or young days or something like that. It's as if they're accepting the fact that they're no longer young, and it's such a sad but beautiful feeling that I get from this song because I love that they use the 4 seasons to kind of compare age, right? Like it's part of nature, it's part of life, and they made it sound so much more accepting than most people would accept, like the fact that, oh, holy shit, like I'm no longer young, right? Like I just love the feeling.
Yeah, and I think, they're touching on a very deep and philosophical idea, and like just being accepting, especially with the past, right? If you have hard times with the past, sometimes it's hard to accept and move on. But I think when you come to terms with your past, the mistakes that you've made, the anger that you had, like the one guy was talking about the anger from his past, and burying that, when you come to terms with it and you accept it, you can reflect back on your past, and the emotions from your past doesn't come up with it. And that's a good indication that you've accepted the past and whatever mistakes or experiences that you've had, and you've moved on with it, and you're no longer carrying that trauma with you into the present.
Yeah. And I just really like how it sounds, like the very mellow instrumental and the very like meaningful words that they're saying. I mean, I'm sure what they're like, the words that they're actually using are much more specific and deliberate, but from what we're seeing or reading, it's still very touching.
Assuming that the translation is on point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm pretty sure it's like off.
계절은 날이 갈수록 속절없이 흘러 붉게 물들이고 파랗게 만들어 가슴을
And I love the scene. If you're looking at the scene, it's
Peter Pan, right?
I
Is
don't
that
know
what
if
you were
it's
thinking?
I was thinking not exactly, but it's like it's a broken ship. Like the ship's not moving. Right, the ship's wrecked. And yet it's still beautiful and it still has all these flowers growing on this wrecked ship.
Yeah. I think it's very intentional that for me, I instantly thought of Peter Pan, and pretty sure I'm not the only one, because when you imagine Peter Pan and you dive deep into like the story behind Peter Pan, right? Like it's him never wanting to grow up, right? It's the struggle that a lot of us face when we're jumping from being a child to a teenager to young adult to someone in their like 30s, 40s. And so I think it's very intentional because it looks as if the ship has sailed, but there's still life growing on it. And so I think this symbolizes that although the ship is no longer functional, it still functions as a home for these flowers.
Yeah, for me, I looked at it like it still functions as something you can still grow from it.
Yeah, exactly.
계절은 날이 갈수록 속절없이 흘러 붉게 물들이고 파랗게 만들어 가슴을 앓고 언젠가 다시 올 그날 그때를 위하여 아름다울 우리의 봄, 여름, 가을, 겨울 이듬해진 여꽃 피는 봄 한여름밤의 꿈 가을 타 겨울 내린 눈 봄, 여름, 가을, 겨울
What a beautiful song. I really like how using the four seasons again, it's as if you're describing a relationship, right? Like it's taking a relationship or whatever they're talking about for everything that it has to offer, right? It has to offer like all these four seasons. So it's the cold, it's the season of growth, it's the season of everything having to die, right? So it's this full circle aspect of life. And I love that so much because it's appreciating not just the good, but also taking, the darkness or the bad, if you want to see it that way. And interestingly, like toward the end, I think it was Taeyang, he symbolizes like a bird, right? And birds show up during spring. And, they're just like the best. And I also think the sound reminded me of the Beatles for some reason. And you notice there was this one scene when there were 4 seats. I think the 4 seats symbolize the 4 seasons. So it's as if like there's always like a spot for this. There's always a time for this season, or there's always a time for this moment. So I really enjoyed the song. I really enjoyed what it translated into. And I like how they're all very different through their personalities, through their costume/clothing, and their voices too. And if you haven't noticed already, Taeyang was one of my favorites.
I noticed. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job with the visuals too. I think it really reflected the song, because you had one guy, he was on Earth, right? Or was he on the moon or something? But
Yeah. You hear her snoring.
Yeah.
And I like that it says still life. It's like, it's almost ironic, right? Because like still life, I think of paintings, right? And when people paint still life, they're painting something that's living, or like tangible, like in real life, or very realistic, but it's transferred onto paper.
Mm-hmm.
But also the meaning of it being just like staying still, but still like kind of going with the flow. And then that scene.